Part 1. The Neurobiology of Tension and Acute Pressure Protocols. 1. Deconstructing your baseline, why you choke. You mentioned that your tension is worse than common people, and that you have been this way since young. This is a crucial data point. It suggests that this is not merely a mindset issue, but a hardware reality. In neuroscience terms, you likely have a highly reactive autonomic nervous system, ANS. Your amygdala, the threat detection center, is possibly hypersensitive, perceiving ambiguous situations, a deadline, a vague email, a social silence, as survival threats. When you feel pressure, your body dumps catecholamines, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and dopamine into your system. For common people, this chemical dump creates alertness. For you, because your baseline is already high, this extra dump pushes you over the Yerkes-Dodson curve. You enter a state of sympathetic overdrive. The consequence, prefrontal shutdown. This is why you lose focus. When adrenaline is too high, the prefrontal cortex, PFC, the part of the brain responsible for logic, planning, and focus, goes offline. Your brain shifts control to the hindbrain. Reflexes. You physically cannot focus because your brain is prioritizing fighting or fleeing, not analyzing a spreadsheet or writing code. The strategy: you cannot think your way out of this state. You must use biological hacks to manually lower your autonomic arousal before you attempt to work. 2. Protocol A. The bottom-up interventions, the kill switch. Since your tension is physiological, your first line of defense must be physiological. Do not try to calm down mentally. Use the body to force the brain into submission. 2. 1. The visual field reset, panoramic vision. When we are tense, our eyes involuntarily contract. We enter focal vision, tunnel vision. This signals the brain that we are in a high-stress pursuit or evasion mode, locking the stress response in place. The mechanism: your eyes are direct extensions of your brain. By mechanically altering how you view the world, you change your internal state. The technique: 1. Keep your head facing forward at your screen or person. 2. Without moving your head, try to see the corners of the room or the far edges of your periphery. 3. Soften your gaze so you are seeing the space around objects, not the objects themselves. 4. Maintain this wall-eyed or panoramic view for 30-60 seconds. The result: this mechanically engages the parasympathetic nervous system, the brake pedal, lowering noradrenaline and allowing the prefrontal cortex to come back online. 2. The physiological sigh, real-time sedation. Deep breathing is often advised incorrectly. Taking a deep breath in actually excites the heart, respiratory sinus arrhythmia. To reduce pressure, you must emphasize the exhale. The technique: 1. Inhale deeply through the nose. 2. At the top of that inhale, take a second, shorter, sharp inhale through the nose, popping the alveoli in the lungs. 3. Exhale fully and slowly through the mouth, like you are blowing through a thin straw, until your lungs are completely empty. The dosage: do this 2 to 3 times only. It is the fastest acting sedative available to the human body without drugs. Use this immediately when you feel the freeze or fog setting in. 2. 3. Proprioceptive grounding, the floor technique. High tension often manifests as a sensation of floating or dissociation, where you feel disconnected from your physical reality. This prevents deep work. The technique: 1. Sit in a chair. 2. Press your feet into the floor as hard as you physically can for 5 seconds. 3. Grip the armrests or your thighs as hard as you can. 4. Release. Why it works: this high-intensity muscle contraction followed by release forces a drop in blood pressure and redirects blood flow from the emotional centers to the large muscle groups, grounding you in the present moment. 3. Protocol B. Restoring executive function, getting focus back. Once you have dampened the biological panic using the steps above, you must re-engage the focus machinery. You mentioned you end up not being able to focus. This is likely because the task looks too big, which re-triggers the fear response. 3. 1. The next physical action rule: when pressure is high, Finish the report is not a task, it is a threat. It is too abstract. The brain freezes because it doesn't know where to start. The strategy: break the task down into a laughable, purely physical, mechanical action. The method: bad, I need to write this email. Too vague, pressure-inducing. Good, I need to open the Gmail tab. Physical, binary, unfailable. Then, I need to click compose. Then, I need to type the recipient's name. Why it works: completing tiny, binary tasks releases small hits of dopamine. Dopamine suppresses noradrenaline, the stress chemical. By chaining these tiny physical actions, you rebuild the neurochemical buffer required to sustain focus. 3. Sensory deprivation, reducing cognitive load. If you are hypersensitive to tension, you are likely hypersensitive to sensory input. High pressure lowers your gating ability, meaning you can't filter out background noise or visual clutter. The protocol: visual. When under high pressure, working in a windowless room or a dark room with only a desk lamp can lower the data stream your brain has to process. If you can't do that, wear a hoodie or a hat with a brim to physically block peripheral visual distractions. Auditory: use brown noise or pink noise, not white noise, which can be too harsh. These frequencies mask background sounds and have been shown to calm the anxious brain. Avoid music with lyrics, as the language center of your brain will try to process them, competing with your work. 3. The timer of safety, Pomodoro for panic. When you are tense, time feels infinite and overwhelming. The idea of working for 4 hours feels impossible. The strategy: set a timer for 8 minutes. The contract: tell yourself, I am allowed to quit and have a panic attack in 8 minutes, but for these 8 minutes, I will just do the work. The outcome: usually within 8 minutes, the dopamine from doing the work kicks in, and the panic subsides. If it doesn't, you take a break. This creates a safe container for your anxiety. 4. Protocol C: reframing the sensations. Cognitive intervention. You mentioned getting tensed much worse than common people. A major part of the problem is your secondary reaction to the tension. 1. Primary reaction: you feel a knot in your stomach, adrenaline. 2. Secondary reaction: you think, oh no, I am freaking out. I am weak. I can't handle this, everyone else is fine. This secondary reaction is what destroys your performance. It creates a feedback loop of shame and more panic. 4. 1. Physiological relabeling. Anxiety and excitement are physiological twins. Both involve high heart rate, sweaty palms, and butterflies. Cortisol plus adrenaline. The only difference is the cognitive label you assign to them. The tactic when you feel the tension spike: do not say I am anxious. Say my body is mobilizing energy. The mantra: this is not fear, this is fuel. Scientific basis: this is called anxiety reappraisal. Studies show that trying to calm down, suppress arousal, usually fails and hurts performance. Trying to get excited, channel arousal, improves performance because you are working with the energy, not against it. 4. 2. The worst-case simulation, fear setting. Tension often stems from vague, undefined, catastrophic thinking. If I fail this, my life is over. The exercise: define the nightmare. 1. Define what is the absolute worst thing that happens if you fail right now. Example: I get fired. 2. Prevent: what could I do to minimize the likelihood of that? 3. Repair: if I did get fired, what exactly would I do? Example: I would stay with my parents. I would apply to X company. The result: by concreting the fear, you realize that the monster is actually just a difficult logistical problem. Your brain stops treating it as a death threat and starts treating it as a scenario to manage. 5. Protocol D: lifestyle baselines for the high-tension individual. Since you have been tense since young, your nervous system requires a stricter maintenance schedule than the average person. You cannot afford the same bad habits as others. 5. 1. Caffeine management. If you are naturally tense, you likely have a genetic sensitivity to adenosine antagonists, caffeine. Rule: no caffeine in the first 90 minutes of waking. Let cortisol clear naturally. Rule: zero caffeine if your anxiety is above a 4 or 10. Caffeine mimics the stress response. Pouring caffeine into a high-tension system is like pouring gasoline on a fire. 5. 2. The decompression transition. You cannot switch from high-pressure career mode to relaxed home mode instantly. The tension carries over, ruining your general life. The strategy: you need a third space ritual. The protocol: before engaging with family or hobbies after work, spend 10-15 minutes doing a specific shutdown activity. This could be a hot shower, a walk around the block, or changing your clothes immediately. You must signal to your body that the hunt is over. 5. 3. Hard cardio. Metabolizing the stress. The stress response is energy designed for movement. If you sit still while stressed, that energy turns into tension and rumination. The prescription: you do not need yoga, you need hard cardio. Running, sprinting, or heavy lifting, you need to burn off the circulating catecholamines. Timing: if you have a high-pressure event, exercise before it to lower baseline anxiety, or immediately after it to complete the stress cycle. Summary of Part 1. Immediate action plan. When you feel the freeze coming on. 1. Physiology first. Perform the physiological sigh, X3, and switch to panoramic vision. 2. Grounding. Press your feet into the floor, proprioceptive input. 3. Triage. Use the next physical action rule. Ignore the whole project, just execute the one next click or keystroke. 4. Labeling. Tell yourself, my body is mobilizing energy, not I am panicking. Part 2 will cover career-specific workflow systems, long-term desensitization strategies, handling interpersonal pressure or conflict, and anti-fragile career planning to reduce the stakes of failure. Would you like me to proceed with Part 2 now? This is Part 2 of your comprehensive guide. While Part 1 focused on the biological hardware, calming the nervous system, Part 2 focuses on the software, the actual workflows, social scripts, and mental frameworks to handle pressure in your career and general life. Part 2: Career Systems and Long-Term Resilience Strategies. 1. Career Pressure, the External Brain Protocol. You mentioned losing focus due to pressure. In a high-stakes career, reliance on your own memory or mental RAM is fatal. Pressure degrades working memory. When you try to hold tasks in your head, your brain treats them as open loops, generating constant low-grade anxiety. 1. The capture everything rule, closing open loops. High pressure often comes from the vague sensation that you are forgetting something. The flaw: most people try to remember their tasks. The fix: you must have a trusted external system. If it is written down, your brain is allowed to let go of the anxiety of remembering it. The protocol: the dump. Every single morning or whenever you feel overwhelmed, open a blank document. Write down every single open task, fear, unreplied email, and vague worry. The processing: do not just list them. Next to each item, write the very next physical action. Vague: Project X is a mess. High pressure. Actionable: email Sarah to ask for the Q3 data. Low pressure. The result: you move from vague existential dread to list of mechanical steps. 1. 2. The pre-mortem technique, killing the surprise. Pressure often spikes because we fear the unknown or unexpected failure. The pre-mortem inoculates you against this. The concept: instead of asking, what if I fail, you assume you have already failed. The exercise: before a big project or a stressful week. 1. Fast forward, imagine it is next week. The project was a total disaster. You were fired or reprimanded. 2. Autopsy: why did it happen? Example: I missed the deadline because I waited on data from John, or the server crashed. 3. Prevention: now in the present, create a specific safeguard for that specific failure point. Example: I will email John today, or I will back up the server now. Why it works: It converts floating anxiety into strategic risk mitigation. You feel in control because you have already looked the monster in the eye. 1. 3. The Eisenhower matrix for pressure triage. When everything feels urgent, pressure is maximum. You need a ruthlessly objective filter. Quadrant 1. Do first. Urgent and important. Crises. Deadlines today. Focus here. Quadrant 2. Schedule. Not urgent but important. Skill building. Relationship building. Planning. This reduces future pressure. Quadrant 3. Delegate. Urgent but not important. Most emails, some meetings, interruptions. These are the pressure killers, minimize them. Quadrant 4. Delete. Not urgent and not important. Doom scrolling, busy work. Strategy. When you feel overwhelmed, draw a 2x2 grid. Force every task into a box. You will realize that 80% of the pressure is coming from quadrant 3, things that feel loud but don't actually matter. 2. Communication under pressure, scripts and boundaries. A massive source of career pressure is interpersonal fear of looking stupid, fear of saying no, or fear of conflict. Since you have been tense since young, you likely over-index on pleasing others to avoid conflict. 2. 1. The pause protocol. When someone puts you on the spot, can you get this done by tomorrow? Your instinct is to say yes to relieve the immediate social pressure, even if it creates massive workload pressure later. The rule: never commit in the room. The script? That sounds important. Let me check my capacity against my current deliverables and get back to you in 30 minutes. Why it works? It buys you time to think logically, not emotionally. It signals professional competence, not weakness. 2. Handling the blank out. If you are asked a question in a meeting and your mind goes blank, common with high tension, do not stammer or apologize profusely. Use the bridge technique. The script, that's a critical point. To give you the most accurate answer, I want to double check the latest figures. I'll ping you right after this meeting. The reframe: you are not dumb, you are thorough. 2. 3. Delivering bad news, the rip the band-aid. Anticipatory anxiety, waiting to tell someone bad news, is often worse than the event itself. The strategy: minimal preamble. The script: I have some difficult news regarding topic. State the facts simply. Here is how we are planning to mitigate the impact. Note: do not over-explain or over-apologize. It makes you look guilty and increases the other person's anxiety. State facts, then state the solution. 3. General life pressure, decoupling self-worth. In general life, pressure often comes from comparison, financial stress, or the feeling of falling behind. 3. 1. The spotlight effect reality check. We often feel immense pressure because we believe everyone is watching and judging us. The science, the spotlight effect, is a cognitive bias where we overestimate how much people notice us by a factor of 10x or more. The reality: everyone else is just as obsessed with their own problems as you are with yours. They are not thinking about your awkward silence. They are worrying about their own bills. The mantra: I am a background character in everyone else's movie. This is incredibly liberating. 3. 2. Outcome independence. You get tense because you are attached to a specific outcome. Example: she must like me, I must get this specific apartment. The shift: focus on the process, not the result. Example: outcome: high pressure. I need to get a date. Process: low pressure. I will introduce myself to one new person today. Why it works? You can control the process, your action. You cannot control the outcome, their reaction. By anchoring your self-worth to your action, you become immune to rejection or failure. 3. Financial pressure, the survival number. Financial vagueness creates chronic background cortisol. The exercise: calculate your survival number. Method: what is the absolute bare minimum you need to survive? Rent, plus food, plus basic utilities. Not your current lifestyle, but survival. The realization: usually this number is much lower than you think. Realizing I can survive on X reduces the existential threat of job loss. It turns a life or death problem into a lifestyle adjustment problem. 4. Long-term desensitization, the nervous system gym. You cannot think your way out of a sensitive nervous system. You must train it, just like a muscle. This is called stress inoculation. 4. 1. Voluntary discomfort, hormetic stress. If you only experience stress when it is bad, work deadlines, your brain learns that stress equals danger. You need to teach your brain that stress equals growth. The method: deliberately expose yourself to acute, controlled stress. Cold showers, 30 seconds of purely cold water. It triggers the exact same panic or gasp response as a stressful email. You learn to breathe through the shock. Intense exercise, sprints or heavy lifting. It raises your heart rate to 160 plus BPM. You learn that a racing heart doesn't mean you are dying. Sauna, heat stress, forces the body to regulate temperature under duress. The logic: by mastering your breath and mind during physical stress, you build the neural pathways to master your mind during emotional stress. 4. 2. Progressive exposure therapy. If you are scared of public speaking or confrontation, avoidance makes the fear stronger. The latter: 1. Level 1. Ask a stranger for the time, low stakes. 2. Level 2. Ask a waiter for a slightly complex modification to your order, medium stakes. 3. Level 3. Disagree with a friend on a trivial topic, example, a movie preference, high stakes. 4. Level 4. Speak up in a meeting. The rule: you must feel the anxiety and do it anyway. The victory is not doing it perfectly. The victory is doing it while scared. 5. The anti-fragile lifestyle, preventative maintenance. Finally, you must structure your life to handle your specific biology. 5. 1. Sleep is a non-negotiable. For a high-tension individual, sleep deprivation is catastrophic. It increases amygdala reactivity by 60%. The rule: if you are sleeping less than 7 hours, you are physiologically incapable of handling pressure well. Prioritize sleep over work. You will get more done in 4 hours fully rested than 8 hours sleep deprived. 5. 2. The digital detox window. Constant notifications keep your dopamine system fried and your cortisol elevated. The protocol: no phone for the first 30 minutes of the day and the last 30 minutes of the day. Why this prevents you from starting and ending your day in a reactive state. 5. 3. Diet and gut health. Gut-brain axis: 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. A diet high in processed sugar and inflammation creates brain fog and anxiety. The fix: stabilize blood sugar. Crashes in glucose trigger adrenaline releases to liberate stored sugar, which feels exactly like a panic attack. Eat protein and healthy fats with every meal to keep energy stable. Final summary: your operational blueprint. 1. When panic hits, acute. Eyes, panoramic vision, soften gaze. Breath, physiological sigh. 2 in, 1 long out. Body, ground feet, tense muscles, then release. 2. When working, process. Task: next physical action only. Time: 8-minute timer, safety container. Focus: single tasking, phone away. 3. When interacting, social. Script: let me check and get back to you. Buy time. Mindset: I am a background character. Spotlight effect. 4. When living, long-term. Training: cold showers or hard cardio to train the stress response. Input: capture everything list to offload mental RAM. Recovery: sleep is the priority. You have a sensitive system, that is a fact. But a sensitive system can also be a high-performance system if it is tuned correctly. It detects threats earlier and notices details others miss. Stop fighting your biology and start managing it. Would you like me to create a specific emergency protocol checklist, PDF, or text summary that you can keep on your phone for when you feel the pressure hitting?